The news came like a lightning bolt over Texas skies. One moment, Dallas Cowboys fans were refreshing their timelines for training camp highlights. The next, their phones exploded with breaking banners that no one believed at first. Blockbuster. Trade. Cowboys send Micah Parsons to Green Bay Packers. In an instant, the heartbeat of Dallas defense, the man who carried the swagger of the star on his shoulders, was gone. At&T Stadium, once brimming with off-season optimism, suddenly felt hollow. The city that had whispered Super Bowl all summer now whispered something else entirely. What just happened? But as shocking as the trade itself was, the silence that followed was even louder, because through all the chaos, one voice, the voice everyone was waiting for, remained quiet. CeeDee Lamb. For years, Lamb and Parsons had been the Cowboys' twin flames. On one side of the ball, CeeDee, wearing number 88, electrified fans with acrobatic catches, jukes that left defenders grasping at air, and a smile that made him the face of the Cowboys' new age offense. On the other, Parsons, number 11, hunted quarterbacks like a predator, his relentless motor striking fear across the league. They weren't just teammates. They were brothers. The offense and defense mirrored in two young stars who carried the hopes of Dallas' future. Fans had grown used to seeing them side by side, joking in interviews, hyping each other up in warm-ups, standing shoulder to shoulder in the trenches of a season that always felt one miracle short of destiny. And now, one was gone. The media descended like vultures. Every channel, every podcast, every sports bar carried the same refrain. What does CeeDee Lamb think? Parsons was his guy? If Lamb speaks out, this whole situation could spiral, one ESPN analyst warned. CeeDee's silence says more than any statement right now. Another host speculated on FS1. Social media turned into a frenzy. Cowboys. Fans spammed Lamb's Instagram with comments. Say something, CeeDee. Don't let them do you dirty like they did Micah. Is Jerry losing the locker room? The anticipation built by the hour. Reporters camped outside the Star in Frisco, waiting for Lamb to show his face. Cameras panned every angle of practice, catching him walking with his head down, catching him stretching alone on the sideline. The silence wasn't just absence, it was suspense. Inside the Cowboys facility, teammates whispered about the tension. Dak Prescott kept his answers vanilla. We're focused on moving forward as a team. But even his words sounded brittle. Zach Martin, the veteran guard, muttered something about business being business. But everyone knew the truth. The one player whose voice mattered, the one who could rally the team or fracture it further, hadn't spoken. And that silence made Jerry Jones nervous, because Jerry knew what the fans knew. Lamb wasn't just a receiver. He was the crown jewel of the Cowboys' next era. If he cracked, if he hinted even slightly that he disagreed with the decision, it could unravel everything. For 3 days, CeeDee Lamb let the storm brew. 3 days of ESPN panels dissecting his silence. 3 days of fans refreshing Twitter, waiting for a cryptic tweet, an Instagram post, anything. 3 days of Jerry Jones insisting in interviews that CeeDee is on board with the plan, even though no one had heard it from Lamb himself. And then, finally, it happened at a media scrum formed at training camp, microphones in a sea, cameras flashing as CeeDee stepped up to the podium. He wore the familiar Cowboys hoodie, but his expression was different, harder, sharper. The usually playful receiver didn't crack a smile. His eyes looked heavy, like a man carrying something heavier than just football. "Mike is my brother," Lamb began, his voice steady but low. "I didn't want to see him go. Nobody in this locker room did." Gasps rippled through the media. This wasn't a safe answer. This wasn't business is business. This was raw. Lamb continued, pausing as if measuring every word. This team talks about family all the time. Family doesn't trade away family. Micah gave everything to this city, and now he's gone. That hurts. It hurts all of us. The room went silent. No scribbles of pens. No coughs. Just silence. The kind that follows truth when it cuts deeper than anyone is ready for. Within minutes, his words were everywhere. SportsCenter plastered the headline, CeeDee Lamb, family, doesn't trade away family. Skip Bayless called it the most dangerous comment in years from a Cowboys star. Shannon Sharpe leaned back in his chair and said, "That ain't just emotion, that's a message." Fans erupted across Twitter. CeeDee is speaking for all of us. Jerry just lost the locker room. If Lamb's not happy, what's next? The reaction wasn't just emotional. It was nuclear. Inside the Cowboys brass, panic set in. Jerry Jones had always prided himself on controlling the narrative. But now his biggest offensive star had put him on blast, intentionally or not. And when a player as popular as CeeDee speaks truth, fans listen. Teammates rallied around him privately, too. One anonymous veteran told a reporter, "CeeDee said what everyone was thinking. We just didn't have the guts to say it." The unspoken tension was now out in the open. The locker room wasn't aligned with Jerry. They were aligned with Lamb. But here's where the twist deepened. Lamb didn't stop at his first comments. Later that evening, he posted on Instagram a picture of himself and Parsons side by side on the sideline, laughing, pads on, helmets off. The caption was just 3 words: "We deserved better." The post went viral instantly. Over 1 million likes in hours. Comment sections flooded with heartbreak emojis, fire emojis, and fans screaming in rage at Jerry Jones. For the Cowboys, this wasn't just a PR problem. This was a mutiny, and so Chapter 1 ended not with resolution, but with explosion. CeeDee Lamb had finally spoken. And in doing so, he hadn't just defended Parsons. He had questioned the very soul of the Cowboys. The betrayal that fans felt in losing Micah Parsons now doubled, because their star receiver had confirmed it wasn't just about football. It was about family. It was about loyalty. It was about Jerry's choices tearing apart the core of the team. As the cameras flashed off and the news cycle spun out of control, Dallas was no longer asking whether they could win without Parsons. They were asking something scarier. Would CeeDee Lamb even want to stay? The morning after CeeDee Lamb's words shook Dallas, the city felt split in half. Billboards still showed his face smiling under the star, but now, every smile looked different. Every commercial spot, every highlight package replayed with a new undertone. Was this still their hero, or was he halfway out the door with Micah Parsons? ESPN led with it first thing at dawn. The cheer screamed, "CeeDee Lamb speaks out." Locker room divided? Talk show panels didn't waste time. Some analysts praised Lamb for defending his teammate, calling him the voice of reason in a franchise driven by ego. Others slammed him for daring to challenge Jerry Jones, warning it could destabilize the entire season before it even began. Skip Bayless clutched his papers on national TV. This is DEFCON 1. When your best receiver says, "Family doesn't trade family," what he really said was, "I don't trust this front office." That's poison in a locker room. Shannon Sharpe leaned forward, eyes wide. That ain't poison. That's honesty. What Jerry did was betray his own guys. CeeDee's just brave enough to call it out. The debate became the story. And Lamb, he was at the center of a storm, larger than anything he'd ever faced on the field. Inside the Cowboys' locker room, the fallout was immediate. Teammates whispered, exchanged looks, huddled in small groups. Veterans respected Lamb for his loyalty. George Kittle once said in San Francisco that brotherhood is football's backbone, and Dallas players echoed that sentiment. For them, Lamb wasn't stirring drama. He was protecting the soul of their team. But the younger players, rookies especially, felt torn. They were caught between their admiration for Lamb and the reality that Jerry Jones owned the building, the contracts, the futures. One misstep against the front office could end careers before they started. It was a quiet fracture, not open rebellion. But everyone felt it. Lamb's voice had shifted the balance of power inside the Cowboys. Jerry Jones, never one to let a storyline run wild without spinning it, called a press conference. His smile was wide, but his tone was sharp. "I love CeeDee. He's our guy." Emotions run high when you lose a teammate. But make no mistake, the Dallas Cowboys are bigger than one player, bigger than one trade. And CeeDee knows that. The words sounded reassuring on TV. But behind them, fans heard something else. A warning, a subtle reminder of who controlled the narrative. And yet, the narrative wasn't Jerry's anymore. It belonged to Lamb. National reporters started digging. Insiders claimed Lamb hadn't been consulted about Parsons' trade at all. Others whispered that Lamb and Parsons had begged Jerry to keep the core intact after last season's heartbreak playoff exit. One source close to the team told NFL Network, "CeeDee feels blindsided. He feels like promises were broken." That leak only made things worse, because now, it wasn't just about Lamb's loyalty to Parsons. It was about whether the Cowboys front office had betrayed its own stars. Fans went nuclear. Call-in shows flooded with angry voices. They're wasting our stars again. First Dez, then Romo, then Zeke, now Parsons. If they lose CeeDee. Next, I'm done with Jerry forever. Pay him, respect him, or watch him leave. Hashtags trended across X. Formerly Twitter, hashtag #KeepCeeDee, hashtag Jerry lost the locker room, hashtag 88 Forever Cowboys Nation, normally divided between blind optimism and bitter despair, was suddenly unified. They weren't just watching games anymore. They were watching a soap opera with CeeDee Lamb as the central character. And then came the twist. NFL insiders began dropping bombshells. Rival teams were circling. Quietly, patiently, like sharks, smelling blood in the water. The Green Bay Packers, fresh off their Micah Parsons heist, were rumored to have reached out to Lamb's agent just to check in about his feelings on Dallas direction. The Kansas City Chiefs, desperate to reload Mahomes' weapons, were reportedly monitoring the situation closely. Even the Philadelphia Eagles, yes, the bitter rival, were said to be keeping an eye on Lamb's future. If things in Dallas collapsed, the idea was unthinkable. CeeDee Lamb, the face of the Cowboys' future, wearing the green of the Eagles, or the red of the Chiefs. It was enough to make Dallas fans sick to their stomachs. But in the NFL, unthinkable has a way of becoming reality. CeeDee Lamb himself stayed quiet after his first comments. No new statements. No new posts. Just silence. Again. And in that silence, the rumors multiplied. Reporters zoomed in on every gesture at practice. When Lamb caught a pass from Dak Prescott and jogged back without celebrating, analysts debated whether he was sulking. When he skipped a team outing for a personal day, social media lit up. Is he pulling a Parsons? His silence became his power. Every day he didn't speak, Jerry Jones' control slipped a little further. By the time Week 1 approached, the narrative had reached fever pitch. The Cowboys weren't just preparing for a football game. They were preparing for a test of identity. The questions overshadowed everything else. Was CeeDee all in? Was he loyal to Dallas? Or was his heart already gone with Parsons to Green Bay? The climax came in the season opener at AT&T Stadium. Cameras followed Lamb every step of the way as he walked out of the tunnel. Fans erupted, some chanting his name, others booing Jerry Jones. Signs in the crowd told the story. Hashtag 88 Forever, pay the man, don't betray Lamb. On the first drive, Dak dropped back and launched a perfect strike to Lamb across the middle. He caught it, broke a tackle, sprinted downfield for a 40-yard gain. The stadium shook. Lamb spiked the ball with fury, pointing toward the stands, chest heaving, eyes blazing. That it wasn't just a play. It was a statement. The message was clear. He would give everything on the field. But off the field, the Cowboys would have to prove they deserved him. And so the saga of CeeDee Lamb entered a new phase. That he had spoken. He had rallied teammates. He had shaken Jerry Jones' grip on the team. And now, the NFL's biggest franchises were watching closely, waiting to pounce. The Cowboys had survived losing Micah Parsons. But if they lost Lamb, the star on the helmet might lose its shine. Forever, the story was no longer about a trade. It was about a future, about betrayal, about loyalty, about whether Dallas would finally protect its stars or watch them leave, one by one, until the dream of a dynasty turned into the nightmare of a collapse. And as the season marched forward, one question thundered louder than all others. Was CeeDee Lamb still the future of the Dallas Cowboys, or was his heart already gone?